Okay, hello everybody. This is, for me, kind of a continuation of a series. Mike and Claire originally hosted a talks event back in like ancient days of 2004 and 5 or something, and I gave my first of these series of talks about money, broadly speaking. So today we're going to update this and get into this topic. And really, I thought the best, given all the shit that's going down right now in the financial culture, explaining this meme right here, money printer go BRRR, is probably the best possible way of squeezing all this economic theory into 6 minutes. So if I can use this time to basically fully deconstruct this meme, starting with a link to a CIA website, you can actually look up the bank balances of sovereign countries. And I always start off by pointing out the fact that the richest country on earth is in fact the very bottom of the barrel of all known countries. We have negative a great deal of money in our accounts. And so as a way of kind of peeling apart, how did we get here? Everyone has some hunch. I'm starting to look at charts here with you of the actual supply of the money that exists in US dollars. So right here, this is a look at what it was like during my adolescence in the 90s. You see kind of a reasonable approach towards monetary supply, and we're going to deconstruct this, but you see that there's sort of amounts coming and going. Now, as you extend that chart beyond that, this is the first look at what a freakout looks like on paper here. So you see the amount of money in existence doing a sharp spike, and what that correlates with there is 9/11, and of course of all the other stuff that was going on, the markets were panicked, and so we printed a lot of money at that point. Here, we're going to take a couple slides here to just look at kind of advancing through decades. TARP, which was connected to, of course, the Great Recession, you can see that yet again. And TARP is, of course, a much more intense kind of printing of money operation than we did during 9/11. You can see here the corporate bailouts that we all remember and we're very pissed about are recorded for posterity here. Now, check this out. This is absolutely just like a terrifying, I hadn't actually looked at this until I was preparing for this talk. This is what we're doing right now. So that insane hockey stick spike at the tail end of the chart is the money that we've been printing in order to deal with the bailouts, taxpayer bailouts, and the PPP programs. So very briefly here, so discussing like what this means, like how does money actually come into existence? This is of course something that you can do hours and hours of lecturing about, and it's usually kind of boring, but long story short, we print money through the Federal Reserve, and we basically borrow that money through the issuance of bonds and T-bills. So the question, of course, here, and this is like what a kid would ask, you know, if we're controlling the money printers, why do we actually have to like pay for this money, right? What's the deal here? How do we end up in such a terrible bind that we end up like screwing our economy and ending up on the bottom of the charts economically? So the quick answer here has to do with monetary policy and this thing of scary economic bedtime stories. This is $1 trillion bill. You can actually buy one of these on Amazon right now. This is issued by the government of Zimbabwe. Robert Mugabe was trying to control a spiraling economy, and he just kept printing more and more money. So if you don't have a good control on this, that's the fear. Now here, this is a complex topic, but normally the fear is that when you print money wildly, you inflate the dollar. And so one thing I'm pointing out at this chart here, of the things that have been dollar inflation over the past 20, 30, 40 years, some things are going up, college and tuition, but a lot of things are going down. So these next couple of slides, I'm actually going to make a kind of interesting point here. Given the rampant spikes of dollar creation and the general assumption that when you print money, you devalue the money for everyone that holds the dollar, we're looking at here a chart of money velocity, how quickly the money moves around. It's kind of connected. The Fed has been saying we've been entering into a period of disinflation, and the question is, what the hell is I want to compare this to the stock market for a second here. This is starting off, of course, this is the late 90s, basically the run up during the Clinton period, and looking at stock prices compared to the supply of money. You see here the dot-com boom towards the right. Of course, this is the economy completely freaking out and overheating. Dipping a bit after the millennium, and then towards the right here, the time bound on this chart, this is around the right before the Great Recession. So you see that the markets rebounded and then actually put gains way above where we were during the so-called manic freak out of the late 90s. And so next here, this is the astounding thing to kind of put into context. The Great Recession dip there from 2008. What we're looking at there is Obama and Trump after that. And so during this period of wild money printing and consumer, strangely enough, we haven't seen the dollar hyperinflate. We've seen it kind of disinflate, or a lot of things get cheaper. We've got this massive run up. And so this is the point. The stock market is certainly not the economy, but it has a massive effect upon the economy. And this is because, of course, stocks turn into dollars, and those dollars can buy houses in your neighborhood. It can drive up your rent. And this feeling that everybody has of being oppressed financially because the same dollars that you have don't go as far is affected somewhat by the fact that the stock market has been booming during this period of time. So here's a really important chart. This is what the rate of money that we use to borrow when the Fed prints that cash. You'll see that flat line towards the bottom right of the chart. We've been borrowing money for free and pumping that money into the markets wildly with pure abandon. That has caused the inflation in asset prices. This is a call really quick here that given that we're in the middle of a crisis, it's time to look at new approaches to monetary theory, because this idea that we don't have money to do things. This book right here, The Deficit Myth by Stephanie Kelton, it examines a new technique that may help us kind of spend our way through this problem. And one thing I always want to be an advocate for in terms of activism, I'd like to call for a moratorium on shape-shifting lizard people running our economy. I'm not necessarily against reptilian consciousness, but I don't think that they should be in control of our government sectors and corporations. That's just a personal plea. And in general, thank you for listening. And by the way, when it comes time to go for Medicare for all and et cetera, we should just print the fucking money.